Hi there, this is Mary. Welcome to my channel. Well, it's definitely spring in Southeast Texas. Occasionally you're going to hear a little critter. He likes to come and speak into our home. Last night he was under our truck speaking, so if you hear him, it's a little old frog of some sort. It's been a while since I've been here. I'm thinking probably 7 months. I'm not going to get into that today. That's another topic. I have been well, though. I took on some things in my life that I had to adjust to. It's all good. Today, though, I want to talk about my blood sugar. I like calling it blood glucose struggles because I hate the term your sugars. Where are your sugars? It is my blood glucose. Picky, maybe. Yeah, sometimes I'm picky. So, as I've talked about in the past, just a real quick recap. 5 years ago, I was diagnosed as a diabetic. I was extremely sick, went to the hospital, had an A1c of 11.9, had no idea that I had high blood glucose. A1c 11.9 is extremely damaging. But what had happened was I had an infection, didn't know that I had it. It drove my blood glucose level up. I had no idea what was happening except that I felt extremely bad. I ended up with sepsis, and then I ended up with the diagnosis of diabetes. They taught me how to give myself insulin injections. I left the hospital with short-acting and long-acting insulin and a sliding scale for the short-acting. The sliding scale was based on a glucose reading of 152. Luckily, after I left the hospital, I never exceeded 152. I never reached 152. How did I do that? Well, while I was in the hospital, they taught me the American Diabetes Association diet. They taught it to me left and right. It was fairly high carbohydrate for me, and I'm not a dumb little girl, started researching while I was in the hospital bed on my phone ways to heal my diabetes other than insulin. I learned about low carb. I learned about keto. When I left, the day that I left the hospital, my husband took me straight to HEB. So I bought the foods. I bought foods that were only allowed on keto. Boy, was that an eye-opener. I started reading labels. So I went on keto. I believe I remained on insulin for 2 years. Then I was able to go to pill form, and that was glipizide. And then we moved, and the new doctor said, I'm afraid of the glipizide. I'm afraid you're going to go too low. That should have been a clue right there, going too low. He wanted me to go on a 900 calorie diet. I still had weight to lose. And he wanted me to walk, which I do walk. I don't walk as much as I did, but I do walk. The 900 calorie diet, I didn't have the guts to tell him, no sir, I don't do that. I eat healthy foods. I eat keto. So anyhow, I was on glipizide for a year, and he switched me to metformin. I think my A1c at that time was a 6.2. He increased my dose, but I never bothered with the increase. I just worked harder on my keto. And then I went to another doctor because I didn't believe that doctor believed in my lifestyle and how I was actually controlling my diabetes. One of her first words was, why don't you try cutting back on this metformin? And I was enthused. She also is a teacher of ketogenic diets, so I thought, she gets me. This is a real blessing to have found this doctor, and she gets me, and she's even suggesting, she says, you don't have to cut back, but why don't you consider it? I not only cut back, but I gradually weaned myself off. So the American Medical Association, there's another entity out there, has now agreed that a type 2 diabetic that controls their glucose levels and keeps them under the diabetic range for at least 3 months, the diabetic range per an A1c for at least 3 months, is considered diabetes in remission. Now you have to do this for 5 years and to be tested every 3 months. And after 5 years, it is approved that the diabetes can be removed from your medical records. So you're in remission for 5 years as long as you remain below that A1c diabetic level, which I think is a 6.7. I could be wrong. And you do this consistently for 5 years. I've done it for a year. I'm currently at 5.9. I ran into some issues where I was having some higher morning numbers. And I've recently, and this is the topic of this video, I was inching upwards with my weight. I had gained just right under 10 pounds. Plus my glucose levels were increasing. And I had to quit sliding backwards. Even though I had been keto for 5 years, I was going the opposite direction. I was spinning my wheels. So I decided to sit down and take a good look at what am I doing different now than I did a year ago? Why am I gaining weight? Why am I seeing slightly higher glucose numbers? So I sat down. I'm going to read this to you. I have to look at my notes. What I have done to turn it around. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just telling you what works for me. I changed 4 things, so I'm not 100% sure which one of these things actually worked. Something's working, and I'm sticking with the program. I will link to the type of berberine that I actually take on a daily basis. From the research that I did, berberine came highly recommended that it acts in many type 2 diabetes similarly, if not better than metformin. So I started taking berberine 3 times a day. Prior to going off of medication, I could not do intermittent fasting. The reason I couldn't do it is because my blood sugar, my blood glucose would increase dramatically while I was fasting. But the blessing is, 4 weeks ago, I discovered that I can do intermittent fasting. And either my blood glucose stays the same or it only increases slightly. I still have some insulin resistance. That's why my blood sugar does that. And also I have what's called dawn phenomenon, where my morning number is higher than my evening number. That's where I was increasing. So I am now back to a more normal level. My A1c is 5.9, which is still in the pre-diabetes range. But I know I can knock it back down to 5.7. And I know 3 months from now I'm going to be back in the normal range. So there's 2 things that worked. I do a 17-7 or 18-6, meaning that I fast for 18 hours and I eat within a 6-hour window. I do not snack at night. The other thing is, while I am doing intermittent fasting, and I'm doing that 3 to 4 times a week, I lower my calories by 20%. I strictly have to stick with that. And that has made a huge difference. In 4 weeks, I've gotten the 9 pounds off that I gained. I'm no longer going in the wrong direction. Also, I occasionally have a glass of wine. I had gotten to where I wasn't measuring the wine. If I was enjoying it, I'd have 2 glasses, 2.5 glasses, never more than that. But I realized that that was adding to my calories, even though I don't specifically count calories. I can't eat and eat and eat and eat. No, but you may be able to do that. I can't do that. So I had to start measuring. I actually started weighing some of my foods, and I started logging my foods again. So I guess there's 5 things I do now. I'm logging. Again, I use Chronometer. I think it's the same as Carb Manager. That's the app that I use. I take berberine. I now do the intermittent fasting. I lowered my calories by 20% on the days that I intermittent fast, and I measure my food and my wine. I added in some healthy veggies into my diet. I think my body needed that. I added in romaine lettuce sometimes twice a day. I'm eating these little tiny little grape tomatoes that they taste like homemade tomatoes. I add some zero carb blue cheese and my own homemade mix of apple cider, organic apple cider vinegar and extra virgin olive oil with some spices as a dressing. The dressings that are on the store shelves, the commercially processed dressings, and then I'm talking salad dressings, even if they're one carb for 2 tablespoons, they taste sweet to me. I am going in the right direction. Why am I vlogging about this? Because I like to share my wins, and I also think it's good to share your losses. Not everyone has success every day of their life. We run into brick walls and we need to find new ways to make it work. It took about 2 weeks for me to see a difference, to notice a difference. I started noticing a difference in my blood glucose levels in the mornings. I also noticed that my clothes were getting looser, and that's a big telltale. We're going to talk about the scale in another video. The scale is not my friend. You cannot weigh too often. We're going to talk about that in another video. So I thought it was only fair to come back and report to you that I've said before, I'm no longer a diabetic. I am still a diabetic. Maybe after the 5 years goes by, I can say I'm not. I'm a type 2 diabetic. It is controlled by lifestyle and diet. And I'm currently at a 5.9, and that includes that time frame where my numbers were going up, especially in the morning. So I know now that I've got that in a better position, my next A1c will reflect maybe even the normal range. I'd be happy to be 1.1 above that and just keep going in the right direction. We'll see. I'm determined. It's work up here. Remember the first time you went on a diet and how excited you were to be on that diet. And you thought, I'm going to do this. And you're all charged up. That's what you have to do. For myself, I've been keto 5 years. And yeah, it can feel disappointing when my blood sugar goes up somewhat. It's never reached that limit where I would have had it injected short-term insulin, but I get aggravated when it goes up 5 points, 6 points, 10 points, because I think, what in the world caused this? But anyhow, that's my update. I am now heading in the right direction. I've lost the weight that I gained over a year, and I did that in 4 weeks. My stress in my life has lowered quite a bit. I had to work on that, and I've changed 5 or 6 things. Berberine, intermittent fasting, lowered my calories by 20% on those IF days. I'm now measuring my food and my wine. I'm logging it again. I guess there's 7 things, right? If I did the math right in my head. And I added some healthy veggies. So I hope you found this video helpful. I'm very happy to share this journey with you because I'm always trying to encourage people. I had a neighbor stop by a couple days ago and he talked about being diabetic, and I said, well, I am too. I said, but I no longer take medication, and you could see it in his eyes. His ears perked up. Tell me about it. And I said, it's diet, it's lifestyle. And he said, oh, I was afraid you would tell me that I like food. And I said, I like food too. Oh my goodness. Just last night, what was it I was craving? Homemade cheese and macaroni. They say that you aren't going to crave carbs if you don't eat carbs. I disagree with that. I think occasionally we crave that comfort food. And my goal is, when I actually get to where I want to be, where my weight's there and I feel like, oh, my blood sugar, I don't have to work so hard to keep it at a level, I may allow myself to have a 1/4 cup of cheese and macaroni. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do when I go into maintenance. I'm almost there. So anyways, let me know if you have any questions, and let me know what your journey has been. If you haven't subscribed, I talk about a number of a variety of things here. You know, it's just life. I don't know about you, but the people that I like to follow on YouTube are just people. They're not anything like, they don't try to put on a false front. It's just the person. And you know, we're all humans. We all share this life together. So yeah, I like the people that are just down to earth. Anyhow, thank you for watching. And please remember to click like. And I appreciate y'all. And you have a good day. God bless.